Oh, baby. Oh, baby. Kevin, we asked ourselves this week, we said, will the Baltimore Ravens roster look different come this Sunday? And both of us said we didn't think so. We thought they'd give it one more week, see what happens. But here we are. The Baltimore Ravens have acquired wide receiver Deontay Johnson from the Carolina Panthers and a 6th-round pick in exchange for a 5th-round pick. Baltimore, I believe, is only going back about 19 spots-ish. So, Kevin, floor's yours. Let's take away an instant reaction to this. How are you feeling?
I mean, I feel good about it. I think, look, we have to, and I talked about this on the Instant Reaction show on Locked On Ravens, we have to separate this, okay?
Yeah.
The Ravens need defensive help.
Mm-hmm.
We're not saying they don't. We're not saying okay, now Deontay Johnson's on board. Let's just, okay, they can be done. No, they can't be done. They have to add. But if we separate the Deontay Johnson trade from the fact that they need defensive players still, and we look at it as its own thing, you're getting a guy in Deontay Johnson who has been there. He's a good separator. He's not the biggest body. I think that's the one thing I don't love about it. He's about 5'10", 170, 180, I believe. I think he doesn't fit the profile of the receiver that I would have wanted. But he's someone that can come in and play next to Zay and Rashad Bateman. He's not competing with Rashad Bateman for snaps. So he'll cut into snap shares.
Yeah.
But he's not going to be a guy where you have to all of a sudden determine, okay, well, who's the 2 and who's the 3? He's better than Nelson Aguilar.
Yeah.
So what we were thinking is like, okay, you don't need a guy that can come in and take Rashad Bateman's spot. Mm-hmm. You just need a guy because with Nelson, what this told me, Zach, honestly, is that the Ravens had no faith in their depth.
Yeah.
And I don't blame them. I didn't either. So it's like,
I'm glad they did this. And Kevin, real fast, it's funny. We're sitting here and Ravens fans, like you said, you're seeing the narrative of, oh, what? We didn't need receiver. What are we doing? We got a 5'10" wide receiver. We need defensive help. How many years would this fan base have killed for a wide receiver mid-year? Let alone just a wide receiver in general, off-season, mid-season, doesn't matter. The Baltimore Ravens got better today. Now, does that mean that the job can be done? Absolutely not. Like you said, Kevin, there has to be, it's not a question, there has to be another move regarding the defense, whether it's pass rush, secondary, or both. We got a week left. EDC still has all 11 picks. He didn't technically lose. That number did not change with this. Yeah, right. So still a crap ton of picks, still a crap ton of time. You got a week now. I like this move for Baltimore. Is it a massive needle mover? Not necessarily, but did the Ravens get better today? Yes, they did, and I think their offense actually will benefit a lot from this.
I do too, and that's the big part here where, look, I guess if their plan is to not upgrade their defense, you might as well try to outscore teams 51-50. But again, look, man, we can relate this back to the Orioles. Let's have some baseball talk real quick. Trade deadline. All right. We kept saying with the moves that they made, well, they need to get this and they need to get that. And they got something. And we said, okay, that's a good start. But if they don't get, we said another bat, another reliever, another starter, then we'd look back on the trade deadline as a failure. They did some of it, not all of it. And we didn't come away super impressed by the deadline in general. So now for this Ravens team, Deontay Johnson's a good start. But if you don't add a defensive player, this deadline will probably be looked at as a failure because we all know what the big hole is. But just because the Ravens need a pass rusher, just because they need a secondary member, doesn't mean that wide receiver wasn't a need. It wasn't their biggest need, not by a long shot, but it still was a need. So they addressed it. But now hopefully in the next week, we're actually just under now. Trade deadline is at 4 p.m. next Tuesday. Hopefully they'll address the other needs, but at least they started something off here.
Yeah. And, you mentioned it right when we got on kind of in your initial reaction. The biggest thing that I like about Deontay Johnson is he is once again a guy who kills man coverage and gets a crap ton of separation. He is one of the best separators in football. So now you have 3 of I think it's the top 15 separators in all football when you look at the graphs and stuff, obviously. But between Zay, Bate, and now you bring in Diontae, he is one of those guys that does just add a different element. And whether that element is used a lot or it's just a depth move, because like you said, Kevin, and kind of was the thinking going into this about getting a receiver, it wasn't replacing Zay or Bate. It's okay, if something were to happen and we need Diontae, someone else to step into that 1 or 2 for a week or so, can we trust that? And I don't think they did trust Nelson Aguilar to be the number 2 option.
Yes. Yep.
Now you have a guy who is out there. He's experienced. He's played AFC North football. People are forgetting I'm the kind of guy who looks into this stuff. We got 2 Deontay Johnson revenge games coming up. Revenge games against the Steelers. We now got Orioles. Ravens gave up, just traded back 19 spots to get 2 revenge games. I'll take that any day of the week. But like we keep saying, there's still work to be done on defense. I like this move offensively. I think this does probably do it for the offensive moves, unless they somehow surprise everyone and grab a lineman.
Yeah.
And he did just play Denver too. Help out the offense a little bit. What were you seeing? Maybe how they play you. How were they playing different guys? I like this move a lot from, kind of the aspect of it just continued to make the offense more dynamic and the offense gets better. Like he said, if you're not going to stop the other team, you might as well outscore them 51-50.
I guess some of those Chiefs Rams games from a couple of years ago, right?
AFC Championship that ends 52-50 is going to take years off my life, Kevin.
It'll take years off of everybody's life. I'll tell you that much, man. But look, Deontay Johnson's not the Devontae Adams of the market. He's not the DeAndre Hopkins. Honestly, if people might feel different. I feel like DeAndre's better, but I know some people might not have preferred, DeAndre who's playing on a knee injury right now compared to Diontae.
Yeah.
But again, he's not like that top of the market name. But we had kind of outlined it, Zach. That was never really realistic, if we're being honest, for
people ask for right? Sutton.
And honest, yeah. Hey, Cortland would have been my guy. Like, Cortland is like my number 1 target, but Denver really probably didn't want to move him. And so, look, if this is the move for the offense, because they should be done offensively, like we talked about. Yeah. I mean, I'm more than willing. Again, a guy that I talked about on it was funny because my chat on Locked On Ravens, and it was an awesome stream. But my chat was very divided on the move and was like, oh, some were like, this is terrible. Others were like, what are you talking about? This is great. It was very much back and forth. And then a guy named Asmodeus ended up saying Azeez Ojulari.
Ooh.
And all of a sudden the chat was united. We decided right then and there, Azeez Ojulari is the guy. And everybody was in agreement about Azeez Ojulari being the guy. If you can get Deontay Johnson and Azeez Ojulari or whatever, if you want to make it someone different, make it Jadeveon Clowney, Jadarius Smith, or Calais Campbell on the interior or whatever. The Chiefs have proven that you can do that, right? They got DeAndre Hopkins and Josh Uche. So they shouldn't be done. But I think that for Diontae, he has a lot of upside in this offense, but we also know that there have been some issues with Diontae. I know a lot of people point to drops, which is certainly a thing. He's been better with drops, though, over the last couple of seasons. But the thing is, there have been effort issues. There have been attitude issues.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of that. Obviously, he's most well known for not blocking on a play and just giving up on a play where Cincinnati recovered a fumble and took that ball. He got it's been a lot in terms of when he's frustrated, he shows it. Yeah. On and off the field. And that's tough. But the hope is he can buy in. He's a free agent after the season. There's a reality where the Ravens actually get better draft capital than what they actually traded here. There's a chance that they get Deontay Johnson and move up in the draft with this. Because Diontae, if he qualifies, will be eligible for a comp pick. Mm-hmm. And if he qualifies enough, I think he might qualify for a 5th, depending on how he finishes the season.
Yeah.
Which essentially then you're getting half a year of Diontae, a 6th and a 5th for a 5th.
Yeah.
Which I think is a win every time.
Yeah, I completely agree. So this is one of those moves where I feel like I'll be honest, Kevin. The notification popped up on my phone. I saw the Carolina Panthers are trading Deontay Johnson to the Baltimore rate, and I like almost dropped the phone. I was like, "Wow, okay." I was like, "Okay, that's happening." And so that goes down, and immediately it's like, well, what did they give up? That's the big question. It's everyone immediately wants to know what they give up. And yeah, you give up a fifth, you get back a sixth. It felt like you virtually gave up nothing now. This was as no brainer, in my opinion, as you can get. If you would have told me this a week ago that this was even a possibility, I'd be like, probably not. Probably got to give up maybe a fourth or something to get a sixth back. I probably wouldn't have thought that you could make this deal happen. I thought the fifth I was like, okay, for a fifth, not bad. And then I saw we were getting the sixth back, and I was like, you do that any time of the week. Yeah. Sticking with the kind of trade deadline, let's move to the defensive side of the ball. Who's Zizo Ojulari?
Ojulari, there you go.
Ojulari. Zizo Ojulari, obviously a name out there. You mentioned guys like Zadarius Smith. We've seen guys like Calais Campbell's name pop up. Other guys like Budda Baker, Marshawn Lattimore. Kind of where are you if you had an ideal guy to go get? Where are you sitting at? Are you sticking with Aziz?
Ideally, I mean, look, dream scenario would be like a Max Crosby, right? But I think we both know that's not unfortunately going to happen. Yeah, if I were to go with like a realistic dream guy, I think Azeez Ojulari would be the guy. I have to look up. I think he has 5 sacks in the last 3 games, if I'm not mistaken. 1 second. Yep, 5 sacks in the last 3 games, 6 on the year for the Giants. Remember, I mean, he was mocked to the Ravens in the first round of that draft a couple of years ago everywhere. And the Giants, he ended up falling, I think, due to a medical. And the Giants got him in the second. Mm-hmm. But I think that's a guy I'd be willing. Here's the outline that I laid out. If the Giants want a lot for him, and I assume that they probably would, and there might be, for teams that are pass rusher needy and is, realistic options, he's probably one of the top guys available. If you give up a fourth or, well, I guess they don't have a fifth anymore. So a fourth and the Carolina 6 for Aziz and a 7th. Mm-hmm. I think I'd be fine because you mentioned it at the top. The Ravens' amount of draft picks did not change.
Yeah, they still got 11.
They don't need 11 draft picks.
No,
I know it's important.
Guys are not making this team next year.
Not at all.
No,
and
not even close.
It's important for the Ravens to hit on mid to low level draft picks in the Lamar Jackson massive contract era. But you have to also understand that, like, adding 11 rookies to this team on a team that's already decently young, like, you need vets. So you make your draft capital work for you. The Ravens did that. They actually got draft pick for a draft pick and got a pretty good receiver on top of it.
Yeah, so, that's for sure.
Yeah.
And real fast, I'm looking up. I want to get – so, yeah, Aziz is a free agent after the season. So –
But then the comp pick thing comes back into play.
Yeah, exactly. So I know some people were talking about whether or not I wanted to confirm that it was
yeah.
Because he was very early second, but he was second, so he didn't get that 5th year. A guy like Budda Baker really intrigues me. But as we can kind of, I want to talk about a little bit is, does a safety necessarily help? Because we're seeing a lot of people talk about, especially analysts, Kurt Benkert, say what you want about him as a player, not the best, whatever. I think he knows the game of football very well. He had that video yesterday talking about how the Ravens are hurting themselves because they disguise everything. They want to be in the same formation every time defensively. And then it leads to guys just being out of position. And if you want to take the short, easy throws against the Ravens, they're going to be there every single play. You just got to pick it out quick, and you can hit them for a free 5 to 6 yards every play. I don't know if a Budda Baker helps in that situation. I think there is some stuff schematically that's going to need to change for this defense to get better. But I think if you're going to pick one or the other, I agree. I think if you're not going to change anything schematically, you might as well get someone who can get to the quarterback quickly. So, it's one of those things. If you're going to keep on sitting in disguises 24/7, giving up, big or medium plays, you might as well get someone that's going to put a little bit of pressure on them.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think you have to at this point. Like, we talked about this obviously on the Ryan Rickman show yesterday. I've mentioned it on Locked On Ravens before. His pass rush has fallen off to an alarming rate, to the point where David Ojabo is now a healthy scratch. And is that going to be a trend moving forward? I mean, it's been disappointing at Afayowe. We really haven't seen a ton from him outside of the first couple of weeks. Kyle Van Noy has not disappeared, but it's been his play over the last 3 weeks has been a far cry from what it was over the first month. And they need something, because the way the secondary is playing, you can't ask them to cover for very long, right? That's what you were saying. You have to be able to get to the quarterback quickly, because of the fact that, like, you don't trust the secondary to cover for more than 3 seconds at this point. Like, you talk about taking the short stuff, this, that, and the other. Like, they just can't. And look, I get Marlon Humphrey didn't play. Nate Wiggins didn't play. But even with those guys, and even with Marlon having the year he's having, which is a very good one, they're still towards the bottom of the league in a lot of categories, including averages, not even totals. Averages tell more of the story than totals, because with totals, if you get the ball thrown on you 300 times, of course you're going to have more passing yards on you than a team that gets thrown on 100 times. But average-wise, they're still, I think, a bottom 5, maybe bottom 7 team in the league in terms of yards per attempt given up. So then you turn to the secondary and you're like, okay, well, is there an option there? I wouldn't think Baltimore was after a corner. I just think they are comfortable with Marlon, Brandon Stevens.
I mean, people say what you want. I think a guy like Arthur Millette returning also kind of eases them a little bit there. Yeah. They like the depth there. I don't think, especially if everyone's healthy, I don't think corner's an issue.
No, they have a lot of guys. So what I would say is probably safety, or Doc, you took the phrase right out of my mouth here, cornerback / safety, but I'm going to actually combine them. Right, I'm gonna say cornerback / I'm gonna use it literally. Someone who can play both corner and safety, give that versatility. I think the name that comes to my mind is Javon Holland in Miami.
Mm-hmm.
That would be a guy who I think he's a free agent after the year, if I'm not mistaken. He might have 1 year left on his deal potentially, but I mean, he's a heck of a player, and Miami's not going anywhere this season. I don't know what's going on with Matt McDaniel, if he's even going to be there next year. So could Miami maybe try to get
agent after this year?
He's a free agent, so you could probably get that done maybe for a third or a fourth.
Mm-hmm.
If Azeez goes for a fourth, Javon probably goes for a third. If we're just doing hypothetical values, if Azeez is a fifth, Javon is probably a fourth. But obviously,
you give up a fifth and a fourth, get both, I'm passing.
Oh, they win the deadline at that point. Like, hey, Deontay Johnson, Javon Holland, Azeez Ojulari, man. Oh. Hey, I'm back. I'm back with everything. I'm throwing out the craziest takes, man.
Yeah,
I'm with it.
we would be talking some serious, just soupy. Only conversation would be Super Bowl.
Yeah, man, that would be. I would love that. But I think, if they don't make a move, would you consider a defensive move? Would you consider the trade deadline a failure for them?
Yeah, without a doubt.
Yeah, me too.
It's so funny. We're sitting here talking. We're like, oh my God, the Ravens made a trade at the deadline. Like, that's so cool. It's like, oh, so that's like, this is good. It's like, oh no. If this trade never happened, I think people would still be okay. But this is a fun trade. You add more talent on offense, which is always a great thing. You add someone who doesn't have an issue getting separation, doesn't have an issue getting open. I think the offense got better. It opens up more things, but that doesn't change the fact that offense scoring's never really been the issue this year. It's nice to have depth in case anything happens. It's nice to open up the offense a little more, but at the end of the day, if you don't walk away from this trade deadline with at least depth additions to the defense, I mean, even depth seems kind of a little bit of a failure. You kind of need a difference maker out there. Now, like I said, I don't think we're going to get Max Crosby. I don't see that happening. The Ravens aren't going to send 2 firsts for Micah Parsons. Like that stuff is not happening. But a guy like Azeez, guy like Za'Darius, guy like Jadeveon Clowney, those are guys that make a difference immediately and can help your defense out when they need it.
Yeah. I think you need somebody. Like, if the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. And you could have said early in the season, pass rush was doing well. Everything was, working there. Secondary still was, struggling. But you can establish like, okay, well, that's just the first couple of weeks. You know, we have a long way to go. This, that, we're not there anymore. We are 2 months into the season. And trends are trends. Things are things. And the trend is the Ravens secondary in their pass rush are not playing together. They're not playing well. And you just let Jameis Winston throw for 300 plus yards on you and didn't punish him for nearly any of his mistakes.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe we should, Ravens should trade a 6th round pick for the blueprint plans for the state-of-the-art jug machine.
Yes.
And they have exclusive rights to a state-of-the-art judge machine.
They need something, Kevin. They need something because it's getting.
They need that James Prochet jugs machine. I've been trying to find that video forever. That one of James Prochet just like catching. I've been looking for that forever. I just haven't been able to find it. But yeah, they need just catch the ball, and we're maybe having a different conversation about all that.
Yeah, exactly. And it is funny, obviously, like everyone's pointing to this weekend as a big, reason probably for this edition. I saw someone tweet this Monday, and maybe it was Sunday night. Let's just be honest. If this game was going to happen, this Browns game, pretty damn good it happened before the trade deadline, because if this would have happened after the trade deadline, you'd be feeling a lot worse. This was a nice wake-up call, kind of a gut punch to make you say, if you're the Ravens, oh, shit, okay. We aren't perfect. We have to go. If this team would have been rolling, they would have kicked the Browns' ass. They would then kick the Broncos' ass. There could have been excuse for a little complacency. You would have won 7 straight at that point. You would have looked like the best team in football besides, obviously, the Kansas City Chiefs, even though I don't think they look the best. They just find ways to win. You probably would have been sitting there and you would have felt okay-ish if you're the Ravens of standing pat. So I'm glad if they were going to get punched in the mouth like this, have it be before the trade deadline. So now you go out there and they're forced to make a move like this. They're now forced to go make trades at the deadline. So this is going to be, as Bear Arms said, maybe it is blessings in disguise. Maybe we look back at that game and we're like, that's the game that kind of woke everyone up of, hey, 1-6 Browns, just you walked in their house and they took your lunch money. So
Yep. If this had happened, they'd just be pigeonholed. I mean, they'd be pigeonholed because you can't make any moves to address it, and your only option is the free agent market. So, which I've also seen some people talk about potentially Calais Campbell getting cut by Miami, them doing right by him towards the end of the season. Yes. That would be dope. That would be dope if you don't even have to trade anything. My only thing would be trade for him so you don't have to rely on waivers. Mm-hmm. Because some team will be an asshole because they don't want us to get him. We kind of saw that. I would love it. I would love it. We saw that in 2019 with old T Sizzle. Remember the Chiefs jumped. Although did they say it ended up? I don't think the Ravens even put in a bid for him, but I know the Chiefs did obviously to get him, and that's kind of what happened there. So this is the biggest reason I want that leadership back on that defense. It's just a different animal, with Calais there, especially if Urban and Pierce have to miss any time. It just makes too much sense. Yeah, both those guys would be tough losses. I mean, you can kind of evaluate kind of what it looks like, but you have options now. So we'll see. Yep, we'll see. Kevin, anything else we really want to talk about? I know, just kind of a quick one. It's obviously no one thought this was going to happen, but this is Kevin and Zach React. If you're new to the channel, we react after every single Ravens game after breaking news like this. So had to hop on once the news broke, kind of just talk about for a little bit. So Kevin, really any final thoughts about it? I feel like we kind of covered a lot. No, I think, solid opening move, hopefully opening move. For the Ravens, and hopefully more to come. But as a start, I think it's a pretty solid one. Yep, I couldn't agree more. The Baltimore Ravens got better today, and that's all that matters. So that's going to do it for this edition of Kevin and Zach React. As I just said, hit that like and subscribe button. If you're new to the channel, we will be back Sunday after the game to break down the Ravens versus Broncos. Hopefully, Ravens are able to get a win right before the trade deadline. We can talk about hopefully a big game maybe from Deontay Johnson, maybe a cool moment here or there
So stick with us, and we'll see you after the game for another edition of Kevin and Zach React. Chewies.